Hey guys, welcome back to the Seoulite. I just wanted to share some of my January favorites with you. It's pretty cold now and it's got a bit of a bite in the air, you know, that sharp coldness that just hits you where you really need to have ear covers. And so during this time, I really like to stay indoors, and when you stay indoors, you kind of feel a little bit cooped up, so I really like these kind of sensual scents that create an atmosphere of liveliness, and so I think that's what my January favorites are going to be more focused on. And the first one is actually something I got last May at a silent auction. It was for the Asian American Journalists Association, and this was just a donated charity item. And this is a home fragrance by Shanghai Tang. Comes in a cool box of 3. You notice 2 are missing. I used one up, and one of them is at home. And then this I want to use here in the office. It's called Ginger Flower. And at first I didn't like this, and I just, wanted to have this set to help out the organization. It's kind of hard to get out of the box. But it grew on me, so it smells very fresh. So what I didn't like about it at first was that it smelled like a little bit like a department store where it's a little bit fake, but then but that note sort of disappears very quickly. I didn't know where the ginger was. I think that was the other thing. I didn't smell a warm, spicy ginger. I started to smell more of grass and flowers. So what this sort of really does start to smell like after a while is, like when you have fresh cut flowers and the smell of the stems, where you can smell more of the stalks and the greenery part of the flower, and then you smell the flower. So it's kind of like one of those situations. So I kind of really like it now because it feels like, when you're cooped up in winter, you're just running through some fields. And so I spray this around, and I think it's actually quite good. So that's for the room. This is for the body, and this is one of the Penhaligon fragrances. It's called Hammam Bouquet. Hammam is supposed to be the old Turkish baths, and very fancy. It's from England, I believe. And when this first came into Korea, it was like 3 times retail price. It was ridiculous how they were trying to overcharge people. Now the price has gone down a bit, but I got it off of Amazon, and it was much, much cheaper. So Hammam Bouquet is a fragrance that they had actually discontinued, and I think this company too has been bought like a venture capital company, like some VC fund bought it, and they reinvented stuff. So I think they tried to keep everything traditional, but I guess somebody didn't like this one because this is a hard fragrance to like. This is very old school. And when I say old school is like when I first smelled this, I liked it and I did not like it. So the reason why I did not like it was that it reminded me of cheap women's perfume from like the 60s, 70s, 80s. And then what I realized is like, that like cheap women's perfume was trying to model itself after something like this. And this is actually a men's fragrance, and apparently back in the late 1800s, men really liked this sort of fragrance where it's hard to describe. It has a powdery scent, and the thing that sold me on the description, I don't think it's here, but it said like, it's like going to an old library and smelling the leather and the pages, and basically I guess then there would be somebody who had just put on some ointment or this kind of fragrance and like is sitting in that room. And so I was like, oh yeah, that just kind of like, you know, takes you back to kind of like that Charles Dickens, or I don't know, who is that girl? Emma, who wrote Emma? Jane Austen, that whole kind of like Victorian era, Edwardian era, where everything is like cozy indoors. So some people have said that like you kind of wear this when you just want to be by yourself. I think it's a fragrance that eventually like settles to be really good. And so I feel a lot of powder in a sense, and I think powder is very comforting, I think, in this cold weather. But you smell like kind of floral. You smell like, I wish I knew more of what it was. But it smells like soap, like expensive soap. And it has a very haunting and very kind of like mystical smell to it. Yeah, where you would feel stimulated enough to stay in a library and just read all day with like a fireplace and some brandy and something leather, either to sit on or to, I don't know, like a leather-bound book. It's kind of like that cool environment. And so since it's also cold, in terms of skincare, this is my favorite secret ingredient of my 10-step skincare regimen. It's a toner by Amore Pacific. So Amore Pacific is basically like the Estee Lauder of Korea. It's the top brand and has many other sub-brands underneath it. Amore Pacific is, I would say it's his flagship brand. It's the name of the company, and I would say it's the flagship brand internationally. Here in Korea, there's a brand I think that they would consider flagship. It's called Seolhwasu, and I think it's hard to pronounce. It doesn't. I don't think it translates well overseas. And I've tried some of it, and I think it only works really well on older Korean women. They love it, but I felt like it didn't really have much of an effect. But this, oh my God, this has an effect. Now, this is called Luminous Effect Brightening Toner. And it's literally just like a toner. But it's not like alcohol-y. It's almost like an essence. So, do not, because this is expensive, do not use this as a toner where you're putting it on like some cotton pad and then cleaning your face. I'm not paying to make the cotton pad younger. I will use a cheaper but good witch hazel toner for cleansing. And this I literally use right after and splash it on my face. And so when you're trying to get kind of like a moisturized look, you have to have some moisture in your skin to lock in. When you put creams on your face, it really is just locking in the moisture in your skin. So to give yourself a little bit of a moisture boost that you can then lock in with some of